Well, thank you, Mr. Minister, for coming today. I'd like to ask you right off the top, on what date did Cabinet begin to discuss the issues of the allegations of sexual violence against young people on Pornhub? When did Cabinet start to talk about the Pornhub issue?
Thank you for the question. As you know, there is confidentiality around cabinet discussions, so I'm not at liberty to disclose this information.
Okay, so Minister Bill Blair told us that the government was creating this new regulator. Is this new regulator going to be the CRTC?
Again, as I said to your colleague earlier, I am here to discuss the objectives of the legislation. In terms of the details of the legislation, that's not possible until the bill is stable. But I would be happy to come back and testify.
So, are you saying that C10 is not covering Pornhub?
C10, as I've said on a number of times, is about cultural content. Is about ensuring that the web giants pay their fair share.
I get that.
And that our artists are fairly compensated for their work.
I understand that. I'm just wondering on the user-generated content, it's not going to apply to Pornhub.
It's not about content. C10 is not about content moderation, which is also something I've said. I know. I
just need you to say yes or no. So C10 is not going to be the means by which you regulate Pornhub. You'll have something else, another regulator, some other process.
It will come. It will not be done through C10. Yes,
okay,
that is correct.
So Rose Kalemba contacted our committee and asked us to fight for her. At age 14, she was kidnapped. She was brutally tortured, sexually assaulted, and her videos were posted on Pornhub and downloaded and promoted. So in your view, and I just have to be blunt here because we've talked about some really difficult stuff at our committee, so I hope you don't find me being too blunt. Would you believe that the posting of those videos represent criminal acts?
As you are well aware, they are criminal acts according to the Canadian Criminal Code, yes.
Good, because we have sections 162, 163, 164. And yet those laws are not being applied. I guess I need to know why we need a regulator to oversee something that's already under the criminal code. The promotion of these videos, according to law, are criminal acts. Why don't we just apply the law?
Well, as I said earlier, the challenge that we in Canada and countries all around the world are facing is that the tools that we have to deal with these issues in the physical world just aren't adapted to the virtual world, which is why Australia created a new regulatory body to deal with that, which is why a number of countries either have or are in the process of creating new regulation or new regulators or both to deal with this, because the tools that we have just aren't adapted.
But are you saying that we simply don't need to use the criminal code? Because what surprises me is that internal documents from the RCMP December 12th briefing note on Pornhub points out that your office is going to be taking the lead. And they, in those documents, are not going after Pornhub. So did Cabinet tell the RCMP to stand down while you develop this regulator? I mean, why is it that the RCMP are under the impression that you're the lead on this and that the Canadian laws that exist are not going to be applied?
I respectfully disagree with the premise of your question. As I stated earlier, the legislation will address 5 categories of online harms, which are already criminal according to Canadian law, which are already criminal activities under the Canadian Criminal Code. So
I get that. I guess my concern is that you haven't actually come up with legislation. You don't know when this regulator is going to appear. The RCMP internal notes say that your office is taking the lead. We have survivors who suffered criminal crime, serious crimes and abuse. We have the criminal code. I'm wanting to know why your government is saying that it'll be a regulator that handles that, as opposed to telling the RCMP and the Justice Minister to do their job.
I think you're misunderstanding what we're trying to do, and the reason we need to create. There are many reasons why we need to create a regulator. One,
I don't have a problem with the regulator. What I have a problem with is the fact that we actually have criminal laws in place. And it seems that the RCMP have decided that Pornhub doesn't have to actually follow the law. There's voluntary compliance. Your attorney general says he's not even sure they're a Montreal company. You tell us there's going to be some kind of regulator, but you don't have one. And I mean, I just got to be honest, like having the Minister of Culture and Communications handle a file about horrific sexual assault videos, to me, is kind of like asking the Minister of Transportation to look after human trafficking. Why is it that the laws of the land are just not being applied? And then you can go and get a regulator. But why are the laws not being applied?
Your analogy would be correct if I was the only one doing this. I'm not. I am, as I said, as I stated in my remarks initially, I am working with the Minister of Public Safety, with the Minister of Justice, with a number of other colleagues. Yeah. This is a whole of government approach.
I know, and they say you're the lead. You're the lead on this. They defer to you. And so we don't have a regulator. We don't have any action. So again, why? What do I tell the survivors who are being told, sorry, not much is going to happen, but maybe a regulator will come. Maybe there'll be a new CRTC for porn. How long are they going to have to wait before they actually see something?
This was in my mandate letter when I was nominated Minister of Heritage. We started right away, despite a most important pandemic we've seen in the last 100 years, doing public consultations, doing the work. And, you know, some people may like to think that we can...
Have you spoken with survivors?
Of course, we've met with survivors.
Survivors of Pornhub. Have you met with survivors of Pornhub?
Survivors organization. I have not personally, but the department and people in my team have. So yes, we have, but it's not something that can be solved overnight. It's a complex issue, as we're seeing all around the world, countries struggling with this.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Angus. We're going to turn to Mr. Viersen for the next round of questions. Mr. Viersen.